Welcome back. We are now going into Group A here at the OSL, the GOMTV broadcast of the Premier League here in Seoul, South Korea. I'm Wolf, and as always, with me is Keldor.
And here we have the result of the Group D match that we just saw. The winner was Lucira with a 2-0 over Maru. The game does not matter in the format as it is. It didn't matter at all. It was a show match that we started the day with, and we are going into a game that actually matters for both players that participate in it. It is Symbol versus Su, and plain and simple, the winner of the best of 3 is going to advance together with Solki.
Yeah, so this is one of the matches we have like a total 180 on. Different matchup, and also it's the one that really matters for both these players. So they've practiced like crazy for this match because everything is on the line here for this one best of 3, and only the winner goes on.
Exactly. The first map today is going to be Newkirk. We have a Zerg versus Zerg. We have 2 mirror matches today, actually. We have Innovation versus Bomber a little bit later on today. And then also, of course, in the last group match that we are going to cast, we have the group where we see a potential tiebreaker between first Hiva and Rain, if Rain takes out Fantasy. And once again, the map score does not matter in this format. So it's all about the match score, and if Rain takes down Fantasy, doesn't matter if with a 2-0, with a 2-1, then we will see a tiebreaker. And this means that we have best of 1s between the 3 players up to the point where one of them loses twice.
Yeah, I could see it happening. It all depends on if Rain wins or not. If he loses, then it's already set. So here's some information about our next 2 players. First of all, we have Symbol, the Azuba player, former TSL Zerg, used to be the leader of the team. He's up here pretty high in rankings for points. He's actually tied with Lucira in 5th. In the Digital League, in OZA overall history, in his career in Starcraft 2, he has a 53.9% wins in sets.
He's a really, really strong player and was consistent for a long time. And a lot of the matches that he played, or the finals where he participated, he was especially preparing for ZVZ. Of course, the series against Roro comes to mind here. A very strong opponent to face in a Zerg versus Zerg, a very experienced player as well. This match should be really good because Su, of course, for SK T1, as you can see here, also a very well-versed player, very experienced in this matchup. And for both of them, everything's on the line. Mind games, small mistakes with the unit control can determine your fate in this tournament.
Yep. Su, definitely not somebody that you should underestimate as well. I think this guy has improved a lot. I mean, we saw some of his first games when he just started switching over to StarCraft 2, and he looked a little bit shaky. He had a lot of improvements to do, but now he's potentially going to the round of 8 here. So really, really top-tier Zerg player, and he's up with the best. Symbol is also a great Zerg player in ZVZ as well. So this match should be some of those high-level ZVZ that you can ever find.
Yeah. And one of the things that is a little bit interesting if you look at it is that in the group itself, Solki actually won against both of these players, but against Symbol he won with a 2-0, and against Su he won with a 2-1. So Su is so far the only one with a mirror match map win in the group. Not really the best indicator there, but just keep that in mind a little bit. So far, at least Su was playing a bit better these days, or at least in the group. But of course, with a format like this, it comes down to this last and final day and the shape that the 2 players are in today.
Yeah, exactly. Everything. When statistics can only give you so much information, it just gives you a good indicator of how these 2 players are doing in the matchup. But when it comes down to today, it's all about how you're feeling. You know, we just saw Symbol have a really bad choke day in the GSTL where he got totally dominated by Yoda, forgot to get his upgrades, and it was just a flop game. It just goes to show that some of the best players in the world can look like some of the worst players in the world on any given day.
Yeah, that was definitely a very weird match that we saw there. In case that you haven't seen this, it was a little bit odd. He didn't get any upgrades, even though he had a huge bang, made a lot of mistakes. So I think we're not going to see a performance like this today. This match is just too important, and he probably prepared specifically for this match for like several days now. For him, everything is on the line here, as once again mentioned. He wants to finally win a season, and if he wants to achieve that, then he has to take down Su.
Yeah, he can be happy, as all players can, I guess, for their sake, that this is only the only match they have to play. They're not playing a traditional group standard, which most tournaments would do, where you all play the matches in one day. He only has to prepare for this one best of 3, this one ZVZ, and if he wins it, he goes on. The same can be said of Su, though.
Yeah, exactly. Both players have a bit of material to go on. If you actually go down their match history, you see that especially in Pro League, Su played a lot more matches against Zerg, and of course all of these games are available as VODs. So what probably happened during the last week is Symbol just having a look at all of these games, analyzing the maps and analyzing the openings that Su used in all of these matches, and just try to find the perfect counter build against his opponent. or at least get a bit of an inkling on what exactly Su likes to play, what kind of preferences he has in his style.
There's a lot of matches to study for him. All he has to do is go look up some Pro League matches, look at the matches he played, even against Solki, for example, check out what happened in those best of threes. He didn't win it, but he at least took a map off, so you can look at those and look at his style.
Yeah. For Symbol, on the other hand, there's not that much Zerg versus Zerg material out there as for Su. He played a couple of games also, of course, in the GSTL, but his maps, if you look at it, he has, in the last 2 months, he played exactly 4 maps, and that's not a lot to go on.
Yeah, not a lot at all.
Yeah, there's a lot more material for Su out there. And for Symbol, of course, for Su, preparing against Symbol, it's also the question, not only do you find a ZVZ that he played and you find the VOD, but is it actually also on one of those maps that you have to play against your opponent? So all these things have to be figured out, and then you need the teammates also to prepare for these games, at least a couple of allies in teams that you are friends with. So at this point, both of them definitely putting on a lot of practice time into the series. And
we're still in the lobby. The game should start fairly soon. One thing I wanted to bring up, some just history of Symbol. One of the reasons why he was so good towards the end of Wings Delivery before TSL disbanded at this particular matchup was because he lived in a team house full of Zergs. People jokingly called the team TSL Team Swarm Life because there were mostly Zergs on the team. They were the most successful TSL players. He was the most successful Zerg of all of them, and he practiced with Zergs every single day, and he knew his ZVZ, for that reason, of course, one of the best in the world.
And TSL in general is just one of those teams, or was one of those teams that always had a huge amount of talent. If you look at the last MLG final, for example, where we had Paul go up against Hyun, this is basically 2 former TSL players facing each other. Symbol is the best player for Team Azubu, and we have even the former talents on the TSL team like Ragnarok and Shine, and all of them. Revival, for example, now being really, really great players for the new teams, LGIM, EG, and MVP. So it just shows that the team house back then really produced a lot of great players, especially Zerg players, and they still have a little bit of the same style, especially the Roach play that they use against Terran. That's something that you see for Hyun as well as for Symbol, and you also saw it with Ragnarok in the last Challenger League season, in Season 1, when he defeated 3 Terran players in a row, in each round, with just drop play, with Roaches, specific timings, and very crisp strategies and builds.
It just goes to show that when you come from the same place, you can. People used to say that the TSL house was more of a family than a team, and you can look at these very specific things, and you can look at a player and say, that's a TSL Zerg. It's why that team will never be forgotten, even though its lifetime was a lot shorter than some of the other teams we have in Korea and some of the teams we had in Starcraft 1 and Warcraft 3, for example. It's a team that I don't think anyone will forget. 10 years from now, people will remember TSL.
And all of these players actually still in contact with each other, always talk to each other on Skype and in the studio. We had Hyun here just a few days ago trying to support Symbol, and this is something that just happens. They help each other out, even though the team doesn't exist anymore, and practice with each other. So all of this goes into a match like this.
Yeah, you can bet Hyun actually practiced with Symbol for this very match in ZVZ, as well as some of the other Azubu players like Sleep.
Yeah. That's definitely one of the things that happened here. We're still waiting for Su. I'm not quite sure. He might have a problem with his computer here. It looks more like maybe they had to change the PC. Now there's the invite. So Su, whatever the reason, is now finally in the lobby. Was a little bit delayed here, but arrived nonetheless. And Symbol, of course, quite happy about that. So we can start game number 1. And we talked about the map already a little bit. It is going to be on Newkirk, and this is one of those 2-player maps where you can spot your opponent's position with an Overlord fairly soon.
Yeah. So the observer here just making sure that, verifying he has no more problems with his computer, and they said, like, just make sure all your settings are good. He said, wait a second. So I guess, he's probably switched computers for sure. Now he has to make sure that his hotkeys and everything are correctly, and he said everything's fine in chat now. So I think we are really going to get started. We don't actually have the players here in the studio, so it's hard for us to ourselves look and judge what's going on.
Well, what I can tell you is that Su, if you go down his recent match history, has actually a very impressive record. He lost a couple of games back in May, but since then he lost 2 maps and won every other match against Zerg. He took down Hiva, for example, twice. He was successful against Golden with a 2-0. Took down Action. The only players that he really lost to in the last 2 months were Solki, that was of course also in the group that I mentioned earlier, and he lost against Hyun. Hyun himself, a very, very strong mirror match player, a very good ZVZ player, so no shame in that. that, and Su also took a map against him. But this also is one of the things that we talked about.
Yeah.
Symbol definitely went down the match history of Su and was like, oh, wait a second, you actually played against Hyun, and you played against him several times. So let's actually ask Hyun what exactly happened there.
Just call Hyun on the cell phone. Hyun, how did you feel when you were playing this match? You know, can you link me to the VOD? Do you have that handy? And can you tell me what was going through your head during that game? Just all these sorts of informations you can get when you can study. Not so much so for Symbol. Not as many games played.
Yeah, and one of the things that both of them already played, they played one match, one best of 3 in Heart of the Swarm against each other. That was back in May, and back then, Symbol took it very convincingly with a 2-0. So this is, of course, data that is a few months old already, but if that's any indicator at all, then Symbol should feel very confident going into today's match. So let's find out if he is able to win it today in advance, or if Su is going to be the one to advance with SeoulKey today to the round of 8 at the WCS Premier League.
To the bottom right, in the red, the former TSL Zerg, currently a Zubu player, he is...
Master, Azubu Symbol.
One of the strongest Zergs we've ever had.
Starting to the bottom left, we have his opponent. Starting in blue, it is...
Master, SK Telecom T1 Su.
One of the unique factors of this map is it's close by air no matter what, and so the Overlords will see immediately what build they're up against.
Yep.
So you can't hide openings in this matchup. You can't really say, well, I'm going to go hatch first, and he won't see it for a while like you could on Whirlwind, for example, and hope to get ahead that way. Everything you do, you know that your opponent's going to know right away.
Yeah, we are going to have a bit of Overlord smooching here very soon, as they face each other. And so far it looks like both of them will start with the same build. On a map like this, you see very often a hatch first play. And as mentioned before, they faced each other already once. That was back in May when we had Symbol take the series, the best of 3 with the 2-0. Here come the Overclaws, and...
That was preemptive.
Better?
No, that's better.
Okay. Yeah, so here the winner on screen, the data that you just saw. But let's talk a little bit while we see the hatch first for both of these players. Let's talk a little bit about the win ratios in Zerg versus Zerg for both of them. You saw statistics already earlier on the screen, but those included the Wings of Liberty statistic, and we're also only focused on the matches in Korea. So if you actually go down the match list for both of them offline in Heart of the Swarm, you have 9 maps being played by Symbol in Zerg versus Zerg. He won 6 of them, which leaves him with a 67% win ratio. The only players that he lost to were Live, that was all the way back in April, and SeoulKey within this particular round of 16 group at the Premier League, where he was defeated with an 0-2. Su, on the other hand, he has a lot more matches played, since he is, of course, an active Pro League player. He has in total 23 maps played against Zerg offline, Heart of the Swarm once again, and he has a 52% win ratio. So also a pretty decent record here. But as we said earlier, a lot more material here for Symbol to prepare for this match, and also Symbol was already in the past able to defeat Su once.
That's true. The difference in builders here is that Su went for extra drones before gas, and then went gas before pool. So he has a few more harvesters faster, and he also has the faster speed going to come out here. The one thing that's really delayed for him is his queens. So his first 2 injects are going to be a little bit slower than you would have for Symbol, for example, who has his queen, as you can see on the production tab, already halfway done.
Yeah, in this matchup, after Heart of the Swarm was released, Mutalisk dominated the entire Zerg versus Zerg matchup. Then we had the change to the Spore Crawler, and suddenly a Spore Crawler could 3-hit a Mutalisk. So a lot of players were a bit more reluctant to go into the Mutalisk play because they didn't get that map control and that really dominant force on the map anymore. And we see a lot more Zergling play with Banelings early on. But usually what happens is that we have Roaches, Infestors, and Hydralists dominate the game, as it was the case in Wings of Liberty.
Yeah. Generally speaking, that is the case, because these units are all so strong in conjunction with each other, especially once you have the Infestors out. The Hydras are able to do so much extra damage from their range. Symbol now having the speed research able to be started. He has 108 gas mined in total. Does not start it yet, in fact, and he may skip it. We have seen players do this in the past. He actually goes for the Spine Claw at the front, which even makes it look more likely.
He could try to skip and go into the Roach Front. Usually you see this only with a wall, and it's a little bit tricky to make that happen on a map like Newkirk. So you need to have the creep spread at the front and a double evolution chamber if you want to pull that off. Then you also have the Roach Front as part of the wall, and with the Spine Crawler you can hold it as long as your queens are in hold position. That's one of the only reasons where you would actually forego speed completely at the beginning. So you have that gas out faster and you get the fast attack into layer.
Yeah, it looks like that's what he's going to do. He has at least the spine core. They will have to make the wall with the evolution chambers. Su comes in. He sees that the speed is not being researched and actually decides himself to go for a hatchery here because he knows he has the faster speed and he's going to have the control early on. And there's the Roach Warren.
Yeah, Symbol currently goes into the Roach Warren, and the same is true for Su, who takes an earlier third base. And this is, of course, one of the advantages that he has operating with speed so early in the game. Because right now, Symbol is a little bit reluctant to get that third base. He's very worried that there could be a circling attack and maybe even Banelings trying to take him down. This is why we have those double queens at the ramp and hold position so that nothing can sneak in anymore. So let's see how exactly Symbol is going to play this.
Yeah.
We even have Su going into the faster +1 attack upgrade here, and that is really important.
Yeah, really, really quickly. The double evolution chamber is going down also a little bit delayed for Symbol, although he has 2 versus just 1. It almost looked like for a second that Symbol might go for a really fast Roach attack timing, but it looks like now he thinks he's just going to get ahead with the upgrades, but it's not going to be so.
That build is not really working out too well for Symbol.
Yeah, Su definitely getting the better end of the deal here.
There's of course going to be a nice Overlord's takedown here, by the way, that's going to supply block him for just a little bit. But looking at this scenario, we have Symbol with the one advantage where he goes into the double upgrades first. And this is the advantage that he has. With this later third base, he has more minerals at his disposal at the beginning, and he can utilize that to get additional drones out, get a little bit ahead in the mining up to the point where the third base comes into play for Su. But the double upgrade, that's the more important part. And everything else is very equal. Look at those timings for Roach speed alone.
Yeah, Roach speed very similar, but it's like they both get the same thing, except that Su has a faster third base, which is going to really start to stack up against Symbol, who also, he knows about this. He just scouted it, but can he punish this? He's kind of missed his window.
Who?
Symbol.
No,
yeah.
not really. What he can do and what he most likely has to do is attack with a 1-1. Because that's when he really has the advantage. And at this point, the third base didn't pay off yet. So it's still an investment where he has to get a return. And with the +1/+1, he has a stronger force on the map. So he could try to use that to take his opponent down. But if he misses that timing and lets too much time pass, then the expansion is going to kick in and the additional income, and then he's going to fall far behind. I also expect at this point then Su to take a second evolution chamber and head into double upgrades himself.
You know, Su is already past Symbol significantly in army supply. I think he's now up. Well, he was about 15 up, and then a few more units popped out for Symbol, but he's ahead in army supply. And Symbol, he's waiting for that 1-1 timing. You know, for his sake, I hope that it works out for him. I just don't know with this many Roaches out already for Su. I don't know if he's going to be able to trade well enough to make it work. But he does. He's supply blocked. He's supply blocks him, and he's going to be facing +2 attack already on the way.
He has 1-1. +2 has been started, and here come the Overlords with the creep spread. That will speed up the Roaches a little bit, and especially the reinforcements. Also the Queens.
The Queens are going to come help transfuse. He has 2 full energy Queens. Su has to make sure he splits. He has to have the concave here.
And now Symbol at least has to do some damage. He doesn't have to kill his opponent here. He's also going into Hydralisk, but he would be very well advised to at least do a little bit of damage or force a reaction out there. Overseer is being attacked. Here come the Roaches. Double upgrades once again for Symbol. If he gets the 2-2 out, he could still use that as a timing. His third base is a little bit slower, but we don't have the second evolution chamber for Sutures yet.
You know what's really interesting to me, Calder, is that we have Baneling speed coming out for Su, and I think that's going to be for run bigs.
Heavy supply block once again for Su, and he gets only 1 Overlord.
This
That's
is actually
not going to be enough. Look at the minerals that he has here. He's immediately supply blocked again and has to start double Overlord. That is a big issue.
He needs to really start hitting those Overlords better if he wants to hold against potential timings. Right now, it's 2-2 is on the menu for Symbol, and he's actually going to find himself under attack here, and he's not going to commit.
The Roach count is much better for Su at this point. Symbol has to make sure that he gets an edge here, and he's going into the Hydra, and we talked about this. If he gets the Roach Hydra composition out first, he can still make this happen, but he's falling behind in supply. Being 30 supply behind in a Zerg versus Zerg, and having an opponent that has such a bank is an issue, but again, an Overlord being sniped, and Su, for the 4th or 5th time, is supply blocked.
Yeah, he starts 2 more, so he has 3 on the way right now. He's also making 24 Banelings, and they will have speed. This is not not very common to see Banelings used in the mid-game like this because they don't have any upgrades versus the Roaches who already have +1 carapace, soon to have +2.
Yeah,
they're both doing this actually. This is so strange.
Main question, like, oh well, it's actually like really, it can be really strong, especially against Hydro. The main question is going to be, do you even split?
Oh, he catches these units here, and here come the Banelings. The Banelings are simple, are not ready. He's already lost a lot of his force here.
He's trying to fight with the Spine Quad, the so the Banelings is moving in and immediately the split on side of Su, and whoa, what a detonation!
What just happened there? Symbol dropping its supply like crazy. The Hydra is getting hit by Banelings. The rest of the Symbol's Banelings are stuck in the back, and even though Su is down on upgrades, he is crushing Symbol here.
He is destroying him. He's doubling his supply at this point. The 2-2 upgrades are not ready yet. GG. Su, he takes it. Takes game number 1, gets the better build here, and puts Symbol in a very uncomfortable situation.
That was nuts, man. I know that Banelings with speed are especially very good against Hydras and Zerglings, but I have never seen in a ZVZ at this level someone make that many Banelings against a mainly Roach composition.
In those choke points, it's really good because you can't get the...
You can't really split.
Well, not only about the split is one thing, but you can also, even if you have like twice the amount of Roaches, only half of them will actually fight. So if you roll those Banelings, then you can do a lot of burst damage at the beginning and then clean it up with the rest of your units. And that's exactly what he was trying to do. And he got actually lucky enough that he killed most of the Banelings of Symbol before they could roll in.
That's true. Symbol not looking too phased by this. This is a best of 3, so even though he's down a game in the series, he's not out. Map number 2, a totally different map, a 4-player map, Whirlwind.
Yeah. And right now, this is actually like, I feel for him this is a really annoying situation because, as you said, he can still win the series, but I wouldn't feel confident in his position at all because in a Zerg versus Zerg, everything can happen. You can easily lose a game because you have the wrong opening. If you start with a hatch first and your opponent starts to roll the dice with the 10 pool, then you are in a very, very bad spot, and this is actually something that Su could do here because he has now 2 maps.
Yeah, he has 2 maps, and Whirlwind, a 4-player map you might not expect a 10 pull on. I really have to say, the builders for Su just seem to be better in this game. He had the faster third, he also took the greedier opening. He got his gas first, he got extra drones before he made it even, and before he had his spawning pool, so he just took some risks and they paid off, and if you can't punish the risks, you become behind.
Yeah, that was a very, very quick fight that we had there. I mean, in seconds, Symbol dropped so much in supply, and Su had such a great position, so... Game 2 is going to be on Whirlwind, and we are heading into the map already. Currently, Su is leading with a 1-0, and once again, to just recap the situation in the group, Soulkey is going to advance no matter what as being the first in the group, and Su and Symbol are currently fighting for second spot. Whoever takes the best of 3 here is going to advance together with Soulkey. The map is on, the game is live. Let's head into the match on Whirlwind between Su and Symbol.